My name is Tanya Cureen, and this is this week's Acumen Media Report. It's entitled, Make It Make Sense, the Unravelling of the Media with Acumen. Yes, dear reader, I've been away, far away from the madding crowd. I've been on a boat chasing bait balls and apex predators in the magnificent trans sky. But I'm back at the news desk, and this week's banter is not unlike the Sardine Run. The Sardine Run is a race to catch the underwater action as the world's biggest feeding frenzy takes over the wild coast waters. It's incredible, but it's the same energy that is used by our parliamentarians, except the objective is different. It is the country's purse, and in some instances, a clunky mayoral chain. A ketang, if you will. Make it make sense. Before we go there, please understand I'm on the back foot. The past 10 days of my life I've been without connectivity and without the inclination to touch the toxic news timelines. It was terrific. I had no idea what I'd missed, and it was daunting to come back to a pyramid of headlines that had accumulated over my break. I'm trying to untangle the mess, so please be gentle as we jump off this boat into the wild sea filled with action, and we go on go. The opening of Parliament was the top story, unless you count the Springboks. Malema tore chunks out of Ramaphosa's pass.
It's meaningless. Mr. President, you indeed spoke like a badly wounded buffalo yesterday. You spoke like a given-up soul. Nothing inspirational came from that tired speech yesterday. You didn't speak like a person who declined electoral support with 17% to less than 50%. How on earth do you repeat a Sona speech that made you lose elections? You were saying to South Africans yesterday, in so many ways, that you learned nothing out of these historic elections to an extent that you want to continue business as usual. We grew up being told that some of you were collaborators, but we gave you some benefits of the doubt. It was said in this house that you personally wrote a letter to the apartheid police accusing your fellow comrades of planting communist ideas in your head, and we refused to believe that story at that time. It now makes sense that despite the apartheid regime being so oppressive against all freedom fighters, you peacefully and uninterruptedly attended university, and you were given your first job by the ambassadors of apartheid, capitalism, and colonialism. Without a hassle, you bought yourself a first car and a house with the assistance of the Urban Foundation, which was anchored by the Ruperts and the Oppenheimers, while your comrades were sleeping under trees in exile and languishing in jails.
And then the president gave Juju a dressing down that one would expect from a school mom. He was calm and even jovial as he told Julius where to get off.
It's important, Honorable Malema, that as we debate, we should play the ball and not the man. Now, you spent a considerable amount of time playing me, the man. What is important in building this country is to play the ball of development. You spend a lot of time talking about how the National Union of Mine Workers was formed. I would like you to read some books, but more importantly, I would like you to spend time to talk to people like Groenewald, who was a miner, who was one of the first members of the National Union of Mine Workers. I'd like you to speak to people like James Motlatsi, who was the president of the National Union of Mine Workers. It's a pity that Elijah Bahai, a stalwart in our struggle in the African National Congress, has passed on. I would like you to speak to people like Salai, who is in Lesotho. I'd like you to speak to people like Director Matlala. I'd like you to speak to many members of the NUM who on the 2nd of December 1982 got together in Klerksdorp to form the National Union of Mine Workers. And as they formed that union, they said, we are building a shield and a spear that is going to improve the lives of mine workers. And they did exactly that. And this Anglo-American that you quote suffered the greatest brunt of the actions of mine workers. 5 years later, after formation, being the largest union in this country, they embarked on a 21-day strike and stopped the entire mining industry in this country. And you call that a sellout position. That was not. Speak to Mondli Gungubele, who was a member of the NUM. Speak to many others. So in doing what you do, play the ball. The question I would ask, waar was Jay?
Marikana.
Waar was Jay? Where were you? Now, this is an important lesson. An important lesson.
Order, honorable members. Honorable members, I wish to remind you, those of you who are making noise Friday.
His retort was so good that Malema could do nothing but laugh it off. It was brutal. It was needed.
Honorable Malema, nna le wena re na le hwetša nako ya gore re dule fatshe re bolele. Ke nyaka gore re iphe nako mokgomana mošabi re ke re dule fatshe re bolele ka politiki gagolo politiki yane ya kgale e ke bonang gore a o e kwešišiše gabotse e ke bonang kare o na le wa itse wa fatlhega.
While we were listening to our new ministers beg for money in their budgets, we learned that the cops need 113 billion to get through a year. That's an awful lot of money to buy a Coke, right?
We need to enhance police visibility in the country as a priority so that we show to the whole country that here are the police, here is policing, and we are equal to the task. And of course, this will go with a number of initiatives.
Let's hope that if it's misspent, Groenewald will make a lekker cell for those who take the bribes. He's been busy this week, the Freedom Front Plus leader, kicking off with several raids on a couple of notorious jails. One was Sun City or Sin City, the prison close to the cluster of game reserves and parks. This particular prison is, and always was, filled with skullduggery until Groenewald swooped down like a bird of prey and on a pack of sardines and tied them all up like a bait ball. It was hilarious. He found more drugs than the sharks in Brazil.
Tested positive for cocaine. Scientists say it is the first time that the drug has been detected in free-ranging sharks. Researchers at the Oswaldo Cruz Foundation found cocaine in all 13 of the Brazilian sharp-nosed sharks it tested. They say cocaine pollutes the sea due to sewage discharges from humans who use the drug, as well as the illegal laboratories that produce it.
Now let's get to those ketangs. The Gauteng mayors. What a mess. Organizations like ALTA, Katrada Foundation, Defend Our Democracy and others formed the Joburg Crisis Alliance. They are calling for Joburg Mayor Gwamanda's resignation.
We do not believe that Councillor Gwamanda and his team have the requisite skills and capability to resolve the deepening governance crisis in Johannesburg. Further, the mayor and his mayoral committee seem to lack genuine concern for the well-being of Johannesburg and its residents. Hence our call that Mayor Gwamanda must resign and that a new leadership must be installed in the city.
The pressure is mounting for him to leave, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes next week. This, after a loan of 2.5 billion from France was secured for Joburg Council. What? Why are the French lending the Joburg Council money? Please make it make sense. Then, still in Gauteng, there was a brawl. Like gannet birds fighting over the last sardine, the EFF and the DA tore chunks of each other at Tshwane Council. It got nasty as the DA called their opposition a bunch of drunkards and the EFF called Julius, the mayor, Pinky.
Speaker, the drunkards are not going to let him speak. We are drunk. Speaker, don't mind us, we are drunk. Don't mind us, we are drunk.
Stay in your seats, please.
And one member said he wanted to mur a boer.
I will be happy to mur a boer. That will be nice. An Afrikaner blood. I want the blood of an Afrikaner. Bring the blood of an Afrikaner. I want it.
We want Jackie Hayes. Speaker.
So basically, in a nutshell, all sophistication was replaced with coarse, abrasive behavior. A bit like the sardine run during a feed-in frenzy. One of the largest stories this week is the VBS looting. We learned that Zweli Mkhize, remember our ex-health minister and digital vibes thief? He took 2 million rand to help the VBS chair, Matodzi, access government funds. Mkhize referred to it as Christmas money. A further 16 million is alleged to have gone to Juju and Floyd Shavambu. All this happened in a dingy hotel in Cape Town. I'm glued to this case. It seems like the EFF and the ANC are not such enemies after all, as they are both serving triple portions from the same buffet pot. Even the Treasurer General, Mogajani, received bribes. Matodzi entered into a plea agreement with the state, and as soon as that agreement was signed, his statement was leaked to the media. Leaked. We also learned that the families of the 2 trade union leaders were killed for blowing the whistle on VBS looting. This stuff is crazier than seeing a great white circle the boat. Scarier than any shark, my jaw dropped. I saw who the defense was for the accused. It is none other than Sean the Sheep Abrahams. I'm sure you remember him. He was the head of the NPA under Zuma, and he was only appointed because he followed Ubaba's instructions to the letter. Ubaba, Sean the Sheep is back. Why is he not in jail? The guilty defending the guilty. Make it make sense. On the subject of Ubaba, Jacob Zuma was called to attend an ANC disciplinary hearing because he is still a member of the ANC, but is moonlighting as the leader of the opposition, the MK party. Of course, Zuma refused. Nothing unusual here. It never did make sense. There were marches in KZN where the MK party was bleating about the election outcome. They woke up a bit late, didn't they? They're only marching now. There are all sorts of shenanigans going on at MK. Arthur Zwane resigned and Zuma said, "No, you don't," and so he returned quietly to his desk. Impeached Judge Hlophe continues to put many noses out of joint as he now not only leads the MK party to Parliament, but he's also back on the judicial bench. Make this make sense, South Africa. And then, talking about crooks, Zizi Kodwa was sworn in last week, and this week he's in court for fraud, but the case was postponed. Then last night, he resigned. Why did he bother to be sworn in? Make it make sense. There is good political news, though, I promise you. SCOPA, the Standing Committee of Public Accounts, is now headed up by Athol Trollip and Songezo Zippy, both good oaks, both likely to actually do their jobs at protecting the nation's purse. That makes sense. There were so many court cases that I have my YouTube queue packed for the whole weekend. Thabo Best is still whining about his jail conditions. I think he forgot that he's meant to be in jail all along. Don't even try to make it make sense. Former House Speaker Mapisa Ngakula is back in court about more stolen randallas. Enyambeni Tavern case was postponed, of course. The alleged murderers of Sela Makichi, the Deputy Director of Water and Sanitation, was also in court. These political killings are really out of control. The horrific assassination of City of Johannesburg's forensic investigator Benedict Sithole left social media mute. He was shot 5 times in broad daylight in his car. He was also on the verge of cracking a guns for hire case. We offer no protection to our good guys. Why is that? SARS advocate Koreth Ode was shot in Umhlanga in an attempted hit. The case involving those accused in the Missy Jocelyn Smith case has gained a postponement. Why do these things take so long? Are we actually even worried about Jocelyn at all? The Senzo Meyiwe trial was also delayed because Mshololo, one of the defense advocates, had other arrangements. Side note, she has been seen with Dali Mpofu and Zuma last year, so we all know what other arrangements she was busy with. Regardless, the Meyiwe trial showed another set of phone links between the accused and Kelly Khumalo. Here's an idea. Why don't we just ask Kelly about those phone calls? Make it make sense. I've run out of words. I'm not surprised, but one of our top stories still needs attention. Pretoria Girls High is in the spotlight again. You'll remember this lot from Black Hair Matters, one of the biggest social media stories in the history of our country. And now they're back, PGH filled with vitriol and hate. There is apparently a whites-only WhatsApp scholar group that the school was aware of. As usual, PGH didn't do anything to address this until it went to social media and then hit mainstream news. Why? How is it that you didn't learn, PGH? Make it make sense. To wrap up in South Africa, the Paralympic Games team was announced and we build up to the Olympics SA next week. The Springboks notched up a cricket score against Portugal, leaving a big gap for Nando's to come up with something clever. And the Blitz Booker tore across the field like an apex predator.
Goes straight through the line. Selwyn Davids back in a Blitz box.
At least we have sports, SA. Sport and a cool sports minister. Gayton has been crowing all week. He's certainly grown on the nation, that man. Give it to Gayton. Across the ponds, my goodness, how did you keep up? They reckon Trump was almost assassinated. Gives a new image to the phrase Donald Duck. I suppose we have to believe this wild story because 2 people died. I'm still trying to figure out how Matthew Crooks, the man on the roof, managed to get up without a ladder and was surrounded by snipers before he took the shot. He was also reported to the cops by 2 civilians, and yet he still squeezed the trigger repeatedly. I'm also not sure how Americans can possibly be wearing ear patches in solidarity with Trump. It's like the whole world is watching America like America watched Tiger King. This is a joke, right? At least Biden is no longer biding his time, and now good Biden, as Kamala enters the fray. Kamala was endorsed as brat, another Americanism that apparently means you're woke, on fleek, or top of your game, or some such nonsense. Her jiving and singing is reminiscent of Zuma, except that America has 2 of these clowns, and people really are buying this stage show. Joe was always going to go, and when he realizes he's resigned, he's going to be relieved. So-called superpower, come on, make it make sense. It's just like believing that there were no cyber attack against the whole Northern Hemisphere, that the whole of the Northern Hemisphere experienced the blue screen of death. Here in South Africa, we wondered if Gwede Mantashe, Poozaface, had started a job at Microsoft as we learned that computers were switching down all across the world. That's it. I'm out. Forgive me for the stories that I didn't make it. I've left them in the ocean over the wild coast of SA, where birds, dolphins, whales and sharks gobble up wide-eyed sardines. There were a bunch of sharks in the water, so forgive me for not getting back in to pick those stories up. I'm Tonya Curry. I'm officially exhausted. Thank goodness for Acumen's clever machine.